Hi all, this is Dr. Dave Maslach talking to you about reciprocity.com. The E is written with a 3. Going for a walk right now, you can see down this trail, beautiful trail, and I have been thinking about how do you actually deal with haters in your life and people that actually just don't believe in the things that you believe in. So if you don't know me, I'm Associate Professor of Innovation Strategy and Entrepreneurship, and I created this whole Reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There's so many people that helped me out that I wanted to pay the favor forward and help you out. I apologize again, just going for a jog just at the end of, I think it's almost a little over 5 miles. So dealing with haters is a really important thing for you mentally, and particularly for you that are in academia, that are researchers, and particularly new PhD students, graduate students that come in to deal with haters or come into graduate school, because you're going to deal with haters your whole life because you're actually a role model in society, and you become much more of a role model. And there's going to be different areas of your life that you're going to be dealing with haters. First of all, people around you, your regular friends and family and stuff, probably are not really going to understand what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. Actually, hopefully these videos help other people understand in terms of thinking and those kind of things. Then you're going to be dealing with haters in academia, because all of your research gets vetted in journal articles, and it's actually really troubling when you get all of those rejects, right? That everybody loves to hate, and they're very difficult after you've spent, likely a year, 2 years, 3 years on a paper, and then somebody reads it for an hour, and then they give you feedback on it, and they say they don't like your paper. It's definitely a lot troubling when that happens. And then lastly, you're going to be dealing with haters in the general public, because people don't really understand science as much as you and I and other people that are doing this kind of stuff do, in terms of how the process actually works. And I'm truly thinking about it this moment. So we're in the summer of 2020, and the coronavirus is happening, and there is a large political debate about some really very simple things in terms of dealing with the coronavirus, like things like wearing masks, for example, social distancing, making sure that you stay home on a regular basis and not go out during a pandemic. It's fairly straightforward, and the science has been around for probably about 150 years now, easily 100. And it's really all this stuff is really well established. There's not really sort of difficult calls with any of these kind of things. And yet people still have independence with this. And that is fine. That's their particular choice. And that's, in terms of dealing with haters and sort of thinking about this, it does get me personally inside. I get, upset and frustrated and anxious, because it is a public health concern, which means it is the entire public that gets affected by somebody else's decision. It's not an independent, it's not uncorrelated. Your decisions aren't uncorrelated with other people's decisions. So it's a really important thing to think about with public health, and that's why there should be separate public health authorities, public health institutions away from typical medical doctors that look after this stuff, because whatever happens to you happens to everybody else around you. And that's a really important thing to consider. So you do get frustrated when you see these kind of actions, and I do get very, very frustrated. But you have to take a step back and think about these different haters that you encounter, right? So with that particular situation, they are entitled to their own independent thought, and that is fine. And you have to acknowledge that they're in a state in their mind that is probably really frightening and really scared, that people put on different sort of shows of emotion when they deal with these difficult decisions. This is pretty well-known stuff, right? We all have our own emotions and how we deal with these things. And one way that people deal with the sort of emotional state of a pandemic, or two ways, they sort of hide and they want to run, right? We have fight or flight responses. Or the other one is a fight response, where they want to find somebody and fight somebody that is seemingly responsible for this, right? So we all have these kind of emotions where we feel like we want to just do our own thing, when in fact it is a social concern that we should be concerned about. So if that's the case, there's not much you could do in terms of changing their mind other than social influence, in the sense that you can change somebody's mind when people around them that are very important to them start behaving in such a way that they actually kind of look a little foolish, which some leaders are that's occurring right now, because there are people that are getting hurt, that are in their immediate vicinity, and they're observing those things. And they have to wear masks, for example. So we have to sort of look at those things, and how you actually sort of win out these debates is not necessarily through argumenting, screaming at people. That does not get any, doesn't get a lot of traction. But what you can do is repeatedly voice your concern and try to do it in either, two ways. It's hard for me to do this, but, one way is calmly. That's very difficult for me to do that because I'm an emotional person, probably like you are. The other way is to try to have jokes. And for some reason, jokes and humor really, this is why late night TV, for example, is actually being very, very effective with news media and getting the news across, because people laugh and they think it's hilarious and they pass on that information to other people. So it's a really important way to get your point across when you're dealing with haters. But the really very important thing to realize is that time will tell what is going to occur. And that's why it's important to continuously state your opposition to certain things that are occurring around you, particularly if it's founded in science, evidence, and those kind of things, where we have pretty strong understanding of how this stuff works, because you don't want to be the person in a year from now that had said the complete opposite. And then what they have to do at that moment, if you said the complete opposite, in refuting some of the basic facts and evidence, what people will tend to do, and this is unfortunate, this is why it's, particularly if you have sort of high narcissism traits, which we all have sort of various degrees of that kind of stuff, right? So, inward looking and, making sure that we're just really focused on ourselves. What will happen is that those particular individuals will blame it on somebody else and blame it on, some other thing, that it wasn't exactly their fault. They didn't have right information. However, you need to sort of track this stuff to make sure that you are taking a diary of all of this information. That's why it's really important for scientists to track all of this information. And this comes back to, if you're dealing with a review process, for example, and somebody is a reviewer, for example, is dealing with your information or dealing with your paper, and they're refuting something that you did. Well, if you have a track record that has detailed all of this information and what you've tried to do and what you tried to accomplish, and it shows that it's this one particular thing, there's not much they can say with that evidence other than just discounting it on face value, which often happens, right? And so you just have to keep working at it and chipping away with all of that kind of information. So in terms of dealing with haters, what I want you to acknowledge at this moment, and this is the important thing at this moment, is those people that are, particularly if you're on the side of evidence, or, that there is some authority behind what you're saying, or authority in the sense that it is based on decision-making and information, that they're in just such a deep spot at this moment that they're struggling inside. And they really can't accept the information that you are presenting. They're in an emotional state that they can't necessarily accept it. And time will tell. That's all you have to sort of show, and keep pushing with the things that you're pushing. So if you're working on a paper right now and you have reviewers that don't necessarily agree, well, then send it to a different journal and get that story out in a different journal. There's lots of different journals that are out there that will be more accepting. So that's all I have to say. Hopefully you like this video in terms of how to deal with haters. Give me a like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.